This video discusses Fabio Wardley's fight with Joseph Parker. There is a lot of expectation for this fight, with many different talking points. This content will be broken down into two phases. Phase 1 is a more cinematic, or visual experience, while Phase 2 is a talking head video where we provide more context. Now, with that being said, let's begin. The upcoming clash between Joseph Parker and Fabio Wardley is one of the most intriguing matchups in heavyweight boxing today. It pits a seasoned former world champion who has evolved into a patient, tactical technician against a fearless new powerhouse who thrives on explosive finishes. Their contrast in experience, style and mentality sets the stage for a fight that could swing from chess match to firefight in an instant. It's important to mention that Joseph Parker is a former world champion. He got that title when he beat Andy Ruiz. When he was champion, he was smaller and faster, but had less experience and was less aggressive. When Joseph Parker fought Anthony Joshua, he was dealing with Joshua's left jab, and the referee's quick breaks nullified many of his punching opportunities. The key in this fight was that Joseph Parker did not adjust. With a new trainer, a refined fighting Parker is now a more sophisticated fighter. When he fought Deontay Wilder, he nullified Wilder's right hand and controlled the fight. This showed patience and discipline. Wardley is the new guy on the block. I thought he looked very good against David. That was a controlled demolition. He often shoots the right hand through the target as opposed to at the target. This is partly why he generates so much power, and he really does generate real power. Against David, he showed body punching and counter punching awareness, but against Justice Hooney, he was being outboxed. In this situation, Wardley stayed composed and found a big counter right hand that ended the fight. He will probably try to set the same trap against Joseph Parker. Joseph Parker had a great knockout over Martin. There was some context though. Martin had 24 hours notice. Despite this, Joseph Parker walked Martin into an explosive right hand, and it was over. It was an impressive performance, but a performance with context. Before that, he outboxed Zhilei Zhang. He nullified Zhang's power effectively. The movement and feints reduced Zhang's punching opportunities. Zhang was dangerous, but Joseph Parker solved the puzzle. He did suffer knockdowns, but this showed real courage. Parker's performance against Deontay Wilder was a technical masterpiece. He took away the right hand and showed high boxing intelligence. Wardley looked in a lot of trouble against Hooney in his last fight. Hooney's speed and punch variety caused him a lot of problems. On the problem scale, this was really high. Hooney caught Fabio Wardley's right hand and also stepped to the right, minimizing the angle of that shot. What was surprising was Hooney's effective inside work, particularly to the body. But Fabio, to his credit, stayed poised and did find the right hand finish. In the rematch against Fraser Clark, Wardley looked sensational. Wardley punched through the target as opposed to at the target. This was the significant factor. Wardley has shown power, but also he has shown vulnerabilities. This fight poses a lot of questions. The reason it poses questions is because there are a lot of variables. Boxing, like life, is complex with subtle nuances. For example, considering the success of Justice Hooney's body attack, could Parker capitalize on that? Can Parker nullify Fabio's devastating right hand? What will Fabio do if he can't get the knockout? Will he roll the dice or just accept defeat? Who will win the battle of the jabs? Can Joseph Parker implement the same right-hand trap that he did against Martin? Will Fabio Wardley improve his boxing intelligence for this fight? Or will he rely again on his power? This fight poses a lot of interesting questions. One of the big questions is, will Fabio's lack of experience hurt him? I guess we will find out. There are a variety of ways that Parker can win this fight. His superior boxing intelligence means he could win on the outside, but there is also a possibility that he could win on the inside with creative punching combinations and intelligent defending, or he could mix both outside and inside fighting skills. Additionally, he could walk Wardley into right hands, setting that Martin trap. The point is, there are a variety of ways Parker can win because he has greater skills and knowledge. Wardley, I feel, has fewer ways to win. I don't see him out jabbing Parker significantly. However, he could compete in this area. If he is forced to fight on the inside, he could land a power shot, but experience, power and speed favour Parker in that battle too. However, Wardley has clever traps, and if he executes them correctly, the fight is over. Wardley is a warrior, and he will keep trying various drills until he becomes successful. So I feel that his best way of winning is creating a clever trap that is executed perfectly. Wardley has the stoicism to keep trying. This fight perfectly blends experience with ambition. Parker's ring IQ, composure and adaptability make him dangerous in any phase, while Wardley's power and determination ensure that no lead is safe. The tactical layers and emotional stakes create a compelling contest between skill and will. Whether it ends with a single right hand or a strategic masterclass, fans are guaranteed drama until the final bell. So who has the better jab? I think this is a really good starting point. So let's first look at Fabio Wardley. So against Frazier Clark, Wardley threw 19 jabs per round. So that's approximately 228 jabs for 12 rounds. Let's give a reference point. So when Lennox Lewis, under Emmanuel Stewart's guidance, he threw 30 jabs per round when he fought Evander Holyfield in the first fight. And Evander Holyfield, when he fought Riddick Bowe in the rematch, which he won, he threw 24 jabs per round. So this is an area I feel that Fabio can work on, because you can see that 19 jabs per round, it's just kind of under the radar. However, against Justice Hooney, so when Fabio Wardley fought Justice Hooney, he threw 21 jabs per round. So this shows some form of consistency in throwing the jab. So in theory, the more jabs you throw, what does that do? That gives you more opportunities to get to throw the backhand. Also, it's good to see that even though his opposition is increasing, so Justice Hooney was an increasing competition, he is not compromising his jab output. Now, let's look at Joseph Parker. Joseph Parker, there's like a bigger picture because he has had a considerably longer career. So when he fought Zhilei Zhang, really powerful Zhilei Zhang, he threw 15 jabs a round So he threw 15 jabs around against Zhilei Zhang, but then when he threw Joe Joyce, a fight that he lost, he threw 29 jabs per round. And according to the figures, I found that Parker throws 24 jabs per round, while Wardley throws 20 jabs per round. So even though we had the disparity against Zhang and a disparity against Joe Joyce when it came to throwing jabs, his average is 24. So this would indicate, based on those numbers, that there is a significant battle here with regards to the jabs, with a slight favor to Joseph Parker. Okay, so let's talk about like the power punches. So obviously you got the jabs, but then you got the power punches. So against Frazier Clark, Wardley threw 245 power punches, and this is 20 power punches per round. And when you look at it, you can look at it from various angles. That's like 20 opportunities around for a knockout, because Fabio Wardley is a devastating puncher, a legitimately devastating puncher. Now, when Fabio Wardley fought Justice Hooney, he threw 113 power punches. So that's 113 power punches, and that averages out to 11 power punches per round. Now, the disparity in power punches against Clark and Hooney is probably due to the style of Hooney. Now, both were technical fighters, but it makes sense that a technical fighter will reduce your power punch output. That makes complete sense. And Hooney showed that he was really good with regards to his movement, to regards to his technical ability, etc. Now let's address Joseph Parker within the power punch realm. So against Deontay Wilder, when he fought Deontay Wilder, he threw 146 power punches for 12 rounds. And against Zhang, he threw 168 power punches per round. So this is an average of like 12 to 14 power punches per round. What does this all mean? Well, in power punches thrown, Wardley has an advantage of 16 power punches as opposed to 13 power punches. There's a few things to consider here. One is the opposition. So the opposition is a significant factor, because remember, Zhilei Zhang and Deontay Wilder are power punchers, so that in itself will significantly bring someone's punch output down. So that's one thing to consider. And remember, what matters when it comes to power punches is what lands. And as we both know, both fighters have significant power. So what's being hyped up at the moment is that Fabio can knock you out with a power shot, and that's completely reasonable. But also Joseph Parker has considerable power as well. So they both have significant power that can have a significant impact. So in my opinion, both fighters have great trainers. Now, Wardley, I believe, is co-trained by Ben Davidson. And I actually like co-training. For example, when Evander Holyfield, one of my favorite fighters, beat Mike Tyson, he was trained not only by Don Turner, but also by Tommy Brooks. So this was a collaboration. So I believe that Don Turner focused on the overall fight plan, while Tommy Brooks worked on more technical drills and conditioning. And I think two perspectives can complement each other. I believe Ben Davidson is more of a strategist, while the other trainer will be hands-on every day. This could be a great combination. And also, by the way, that is an assumption on my behalf. But the co-training relationship could be really, really effective. And there's various elements to this. And it's important that psychologically that Fabio Wardley feels comfortable with this, and that he feels that this is enabling him to operate on his optimum level. Now let's talk about Joseph Parker. Now Joseph Parker has Andy Lee. I think Andy Lee is a really good trainer. I believe he's a trainer of a very high level. To me, great trainers harness great boxing environments, and I believe that Andy Lee creates a great boxing environment. So also Andy Lee is a concise communicator and always creates a good game plan. Remember, concise communication is essential for a trainer, particularly in the boxing match, because you have 3 minutes of fighting and then you have 1 minute to be able to articulate the instructions, articulate the plan, etc. So what can we take from this? Well, I would say that both fighters, so both Fabio and Joseph Parker, they have A-level trainers, which means that both trainers would have done their homework. To me, it would be good if Ben Davidson was more hands-on in camp, but that assumption could be incorrect. But regardless, his strategic input will be very valuable. I can see that both fighters, they both have strong teams around them. And remember this point, boxing teams are typically multifaceted. So what does that mean? Typically, in a boxing team, you can have a boxing coach, a dietitian, a strength and conditioning person. Sometimes you will have separate individuals for pad work, sparring partners, managers, etc. So teams are complex structures, and I think both fighters have really A-level trainers, and the byproduct of that will come an efficient, complex structure. So psychology is so important in boxing. It's important in sports in general. And when we look at Wardley, he has the psychology of an undefeated fighter. But what does that mean? It means that he is super, super, super confident. And this reflects how he effortlessly just punches through the target. Effectively, he has faith in his power. And in fairness, he has the evidence to back up that faith. And additional to this, Fabio Wardley has come back from adversity, which is a great test. He has also shown that he has a great team behind him. Indeed, behind every boxer is probably a great team. And in the Huni fight, which was a tough fight, he showed that he is brave. Bravery, some say, is a choice, and Fabio evidenced bravery. Fabio chose bravery. But what about Joseph Parker? What is his psychology? Well, Joseph Parker, I would say, has the psychology of a champion. He is strong-minded. He is confident, and he has shown that he can come back from adversity. He has shown that. He has a great trainer, and it looks like they have a great relationship. That's two elements there, a great trainer, but they also have a great relationship. So Joseph Parker, like Wardley, is a warrior. And as I've stated, the psychology of fighters is so, so important, because if you have the wrong psychology, then that boxer is in serious trouble. They're in absolute serious trouble. So I would say that both fighters, so Fabio and Joseph Parker, they are both strong in this area. And when you get to this level, you expect a level of toughness and a level of resistance. I feel like Parker has improved as well in this area. Now, don't get me wrong, don't get it twisted. He was always a warrior, but now I think he's an even stronger one. Wardley, on the other hand, has shown no weaknesses in this area. So both come into this psychologically very, very strong. So let's talk about the weight. Now, when we look at Fabio Wardley, his weight is actually very consistent. For example, against Fraser Clark, he was 242 pounds. So he was 242 pounds against Fraser Clark. And against David Adelaide, he was 239 pounds, which is a very small disparity. And against Nathan Gorman, he was 239 pounds again. So what does this indicate? It indicates a comfortability around his weight, which is a positive thing. But when it comes to Joseph Parker's weight, this tells a completely different story. Let me explain. Joseph Parker has grown considerably with regards to his physicality. For example, when Joseph Parker fought Anthony Joshua in a unification fight, he was 236 pounds. 236 pounds, which is 16 stone, 22 pounds. But when he fought Martin Bakole, he was 267 pounds, which is 19 stone, 1 pound. Now, I would argue that this is a big disparity. It's not just a bigger disparity, it's a big disparity. It's considerable. So considering this, the question to me is, what are the benefits and disadvantages of this type of weight gain? To me, the extra weight gain logically makes you punch harder. This can positively affect your psychology. It also can make you absorb punches better. However, there is a compromise, and that compromise is punch speed, foot speed, and reflexes, and it can also compromise your boxing stamina. So when you put this puzzle together with regards to the weight context, I think Wardley has a little advantage here, because the lack of consistency in weight means that there's a small room for error. For example, if Joseph Parker comes in with too much weight, he compromises his movement, he compromises his reflexes, and this will be detrimental. This will be very detrimental because he'll be easier to hit. And you can't make that type of mistake against a power puncher like Fabio Wardley. But the counter argument to this is that Parker has a brilliant team that will have a scientific approach, and this will reduce the risk of making that type of error. So how does Fabio Wardley win the fight? How does Joseph Parker win the fight? Now, if Joseph Parker reduces the jab output, he also reduces the power punches from Wardley. If he reduces the power punches from Wardley, he reduces the possibility of suffering a knockout defeat. If Parker goes on the inside and starts to implement his double and triple left hook, he could do some serious damage. His left hook is short. It reminds me a bit of how Evander Holyfield used to throw his left hook. And if Parker ensues the inside game, the body work would be a good investment, because the more body shots he lands, the more tired Wardley will be, and it will be harder for him to get the power in his punches. However, Parker could stay on the outside, and he could, in theory, out-jab Wardley. He could also land the backhand either off the jab, off the double jab, or off the feint, or off the short left hook. However, if Fabio lands a lot of jabs, that means he will be probably throwing a lot of power punches. In that scenario, you could envision a sensational knockout by Wardley. But hold on, Joseph Parker is a very intelligent operator. He's a boxer with high boxing intelligence. He can slow the fight down with movement, with feints, and also by getting the respect of Wardley. He will also use holding in a strategic manner. Joseph Parker has the experience to control the tempo and also set clever traps. And let's not forget that Fabio will also set traps, and this is a key part of the fight. I feel that Joseph Parker has many ways to win this fight. But let's not forget, Wardley is very dangerous. The evidence suggests that Wardley will keep setting traps until he gets that knockout. And also, let's not forget that Parker could get the knockout if Wardley does not implement intelligent defense. So he needs to be intelligent with his approach, or Wardley could get knocked out. For me, in the end, this could be a really great fight.